The UFC's heavyweight division, traditionally the sport's most prestigious and mythic weight class, is currently navigating a profound and unsettling period of uncertainty. Its present clouded by injury, and its future hanging on the delicate state of a champion's eyesight. At the center of this crisis is Tom Aspinall, whose reign has been defined more by cruel misfortune than by sustained dominance. The no contest against Ciryl Gane at UFC 321, a fight ended by debilitating double eye pokes, wasn't just a disappointing main event. It was, as Joe Rogan bluntly labeled it, a fucking disaster with potentially permanent consequences. Rogan's grave assessment that Aspinall might not ever fight again underscores the severity. This isn't a typical ligament tear. It's damage to the most irreplaceable tools a fighter possesses. Aspinall's planned surgeries are a gamble on his very career, an attempt to repair the precise vision and depth perception that make his dynamic, speed-based style so revolutionary for the division. As Rogan noted, eyes are tricky, and the path back is fraught with medical ambiguity, leaving the title picture in a state of suspended animation. This vulnerability exposes the alarming lack of depth Rogan diagnoses at heavyweight. His list of truly compelling championship-level fighters is brutally short. Aspinall, Gane, a semi-retired Jon Jones, and the exiled Francis Ngannou, whose return he deems a miracle. Beyond that, he sees a void. This scarcity amplifies every setback. When the champion is healthy, the division thrills with potential superfights. When he is injured, as Aspinall is, the entire ecosystem grinds to a halt, with no clear, marketable heir apparent ready to seize the momentum. The proposed Aspinall-Gane rematch is frozen, and the specter of an interim title only highlights the absence of a deep contender pool. For a division that crowns the baddest motherfucker on the planet, the current landscape feels perilously thin, more reliant on the health and whims of a few individuals than on a thriving, competitive roster. Thus, Aspinall's recovery is more than a personal journey. It is the linchpin for the division's immediate future. Rogan's hope that Aspinall returns is a sentiment shared by fans who recognize his unique talent, but it's tempered by the harsh reality of his injury. The heavyweight throne is not just vacant, it is guarded by a medical question mark. Until Aspinall's sight is restored and his confidence returns, the division remains in a holding pattern, a kingdom awaiting the return of its king from a battle fought not in the cage, but in an ophthalmologist's office. The next chapter of heavyweight history, whether it's Aspinall's redemption, Gane's ascension, or the rise of a new force like Gable Stevenson, is entirely dependent on the success of a surgical procedure and the healing of a damaged eye. It's a stark reminder that in combat sports, the most decisive blows can sometimes be the ones you never see coming. The UFC's decision to crown an interim lightweight champion has ignited a firestorm of debate, not over the inclusion of Justin Gaethje, a beloved veteran and perennial bonus machine, but over the selection of his opponent, Paddy Pimblett. The promotion's choice to leapfrog the baddie over the division's clear #1 ranked contender, Arman Tsarukyan, has laid bare the often uncomfortable tension between sporting merit and commercial appeal in the modern fight business. As top commentator Jon Jones recently conceded, "I do believe he is being treated unfairly." Anek's admission is significant, coming from a voice inside the UFC apparatus, and it echoes the sentiment of a large segment of the fanbase who views Tsarukyan as the best, most complete lightweight in the world. The justification from Dana White points back to Tsarukyan's catastrophic withdrawal from a title shot at UFC 311, an event shrouded in conflicting reports of injury and weight cut failure. That single misstep in the promotion's eyes created a debt that even a dominant main event win over Dan Hooker could not repay, placing Tsarukyan in a punitive holding pattern. This has created a stark dichotomy in the path to the title. Pimblett's route is built on marketability, an undefeated UFC record, a magnetic personality, and a fan base that generates undeniable buzz. As one fan critiqued, his resume is built on has-beens and never-was fighters, making his title shot feel like a corrupt deal, driven by entertainment value over competitive rigor. Conversely, Tsarukyan's path is one of unambiguous sporting dominance, stifled by a singular professional error and a perceived transgression against the UFC brass. Anik hints at this, noting the extent to which he crossed Dana White, only those on the inside really know. This suggests Tsarukyan's exile is as much about internal politics and trust as it is about the official reason given. In response, Tsarukyan has adopted a posture of defiant, active patience. Rather than publicly sulking, he has embarked on a prolific campaign outside the octagon, racking up grappling wins and declaring the belt is just a formality at this point. This is more than bravado, it's a strategic claim to legitimacy that exists outside the UFC's title structure. He is building a parallel case for his supremacy through activity and dominance in other arenas, forcing observers to acknowledge his skills, even as the promotion withholds its ultimate prize. The upcoming interim title fight at UFC 324 now carries this meta-narrative. It is both a contest for a belt and a referendum on the UFC's matchmaking philosophy. A Gaethje victory might be viewed as justice, the veteran overcoming the hype. A Pimblett victory would validate the UFC's commercial gamble, but would leave the ghost of Tsarukyan's unresolved claim hanging heavier than ever over the division, a constant reminder that the best fighter does not always get the next shot. The hallowed and eternally contested debate over the UFC's greatest of all time is a fortress built on longevity, dominance across eras, and an accumulation of victories that seem untouchable. Yet, according to Chael Sonnen, the entire citadel could be stormed and conquered by a single historic act in 2026, Alex Pereira capturing the UFC heavyweight title. I think Alex Pereira, with a win at heavyweight, becoming heavyweight champion, ends our ability to even have a discussion, Sonnen declared, framing a potential third division crown not as an addition to Pereira's resume, but as its ultimate trump card. In Sonnen's calculus, the sheer, unprecedented magnitude of that achievement, becoming the first fighter to hold UFC gold in 3 weight classes, would instantly outweigh the deeper catalogs of legends like Jon Jones, Georges St-Pierre, or Anderson Silva. It's an argument based on peak, singular accomplishment over sustained totality, what have you done lately pushed to its most spectacular extreme. This bold thesis emerges as Pereira's own dream fight, a legacy-defining clash with Jon Jones at the White House, appears to be off the table due to the promotion's reluctance. With that super fight shelved, the path Sonnen outlines becomes not just compelling, but perhaps the most logical next step. The rumors of an interim title bout with Ciryl Gane align perfectly with this narrative. A victory over Gane, a former interim champion and one of the division's most technically gifted strikers, would grant Pereira that crucial heavyweight title, whether interim or undisputed, and place him on the doorstep of the history Sonnen describes. It's a fight that serves dual purposes. It keeps the stagnant heavyweight division moving in Tom Aspinall's absence, and it provides Pereira the platform for a career-crowning feat. However, Sonnen's proclamation also highlights the fascinating tension in modern GOAT debates. Is it about the breadth of a career or the height of its ambition? Jon Jones's legacy is a sprawling epic of dominance across 15 years. Pereira's would be a breathtaking novella of targeted surgical conquest across 3 divisions in less than 5. For Sonnen, the novella's stunning climax would render the epic's longer page count secondary. Whether the wider MMA world would unanimously agree is another question, but it sets the stage for a phenomenal 2026. If Pereira can navigate the dangerous puzzle of gain, claim heavyweight gold, and then potentially unify it against Aspinall, he would forge a claim so unique, so visually dramatic, that it could indeed force a radical reevaluation of what constitutes greatness. The GOAT debate may not end, but it would welcome a new, undeniable, and terrifying contender to the pasture. The complex and often fraught intersection of aesthetics, athleticism, and gender in combat sports has been thrust into the spotlight following Joe Rogan's recent comments about PFL flyweight champion Dakota Ditcheva. On his podcast, while praising the undefeated British star's vicious knockout prowess, Rogan framed her dominance through a lens of perceived underestimation, suggesting her pretty and slender appearance leads people to misjudge her lethal capabilities. If you saw her at a club, you'd say, "Wow, she looks really fit. Maybe she's a CrossFitter or something." And then she just F's you up, Rogan stated. While likely intended as a compliment, highlighting the contrast between her appearance and her violence, the analysis drew swift criticism from former UFC fighter Bec Rawlings, who mockingly reversed the genders to expose the underlying condescension. "Have you seen that really hot guy? He fights guys and he's really fucking hot," Rawlings wrote, highlighting how rarely elite male fighters are introduced or evaluated primarily through the filter of their conventional attractiveness. This exchange cuts to a persistent double standard in how female athletes are marketed and discussed. Rogan's commentary, though celebratory of Ditcheva's skill, inadvertently reinforces the very stereotype he claims she shatters, that a fighter's appearance is a relevant data point in assessing their threat level. For a champion like Ditcheva, whose 15-0 record is built on a highlight reel of brutal Muay Thai finishes, the focus on her looks can feel like a distraction from her merit, a needless validation that she is pretty and tough, as if one must excuse the other. Rawlings' critique underscores that male fighters are simply fighters. Their appearance, unless exceptionally distinctive, is rarely a central pillar of their narrative. For women, it often becomes an unavoidable prefix, a burden of proof they must consistently overcome. The timing of this discourse is particularly poignant, as Ditcheva herself is sidelined, having tearfully withdrawn from a major PFL card due to a training injury. Her absence is felt not because of her looks, but because she has established herself as the most exciting female fighter in MMA through action alone. The debate sparked by Rogan and Rawlings serves as a reminder that the path for female fighters remains layered with additional, often reductive scrutiny. As Ditcheva heals and prepares for her return, the hope among many fans and peers is that the conversation will evolve to match her performances, focused solely on the destruction she delivers in the cage, allowing her skills to be the beginning, middle, and end of her story, no aesthetic qualifier required. The narrative of Henry Cejudo's career has always defied conventional retirement arcs, and his latest chapter is no exception. Mere weeks after announcing his second departure from MMA competition following a fourth straight UFC loss, the man known as Triple C is already plotting a return to combat, just not in the octagon. In a move that fully embraces his foundational identity, Cejudo will headline RAF 6 on February 28th in Tempe, Arizona, stepping onto the wrestling mats to face none other than UFC Hall of Famer and fellow pioneer of the lighter weight classes, Uriah Faber. This booking is a masterstroke of nostalgia and style, pitting one of the greatest wrestlers in combat sports history against the California Kid, a legend whose own career was built on a dazzling, scrambling grappling pedigree. It's a showcase that allows Cejudo to exit the punishing, youth-driven world of the UFC's bantamweight division and re-enter a competitive arena where his most elite skill, his Olympic gold medal wrestling, is not just an asset, but the entire point. For the RAF, Real American Freestyle promotion, securing this matchup is a major coup. The organization has quickly become a destination for elite wrestlers and notable MMA names, seeking high-level competition without the stand-up danger, having already featured stars like Bo Nickel and Yoel Romero. A bout between Cejudo and Faber fits this model perfectly. It leverages the deep name recognition and respect both men command, appealing to longtime MMA fans who remember their parallel reigns over the UFC's flyweight and bantamweight divisions. The stylistic promise is pure grappling artistry. Cejudo's technical, pressure-based Olympic freestyle against Faber's inventive, submission-oriented catch wrestling style. It's a dream match that never happened in the UFC, now resurrected in a specialized format that highlights the core skills that made both men famous. This transition is a telling sign of Cejudo's post-UFC path. Rather than fading from view or clinging to diminishing returns in MMA, he is strategically pivoting to where his legacy is unassailable. The fight with Faber is less a comeback and more a celebration, a chance for two retired legends to test their pure wrestling in a prestigious setting for a new audience. It offers Cejudo a competitive outlet that aligns with his physical prime skill set, a big stage platform on Fox Nation, and a compelling narrative without the career risk of another MMA loss. For fans, it's a gift, a chance to see a clash of iconic styles that history otherwise denied them. Henry Cejudo isn't just returning, he's reinventing, proving that for a competitor of his caliber, retirement from one sport is merely an invitation to conquer another. The quiet, functional machinery of the UFC Apex often produces fights that lack the glitter of a pay-per-view, but overflow with raw, career-altering stakes. The bout between Alex Morono and Daniil Donchenko, booked for UFC Vegas 113 on February 7th, is precisely that kind of hidden pressure cooker. On the surface, it's a welterweight contest on a fight night card. In reality, it's a stark crossroads where two very different careers will violently intersect. For Alex Morono, the Great White, this is a fight about preservation. A stalwart of the division for nearly a decade, Morono finds himself in the perilous territory of a three-fight losing skid. In the UFC's unforgiving ecosystem, such streaks can transform a reliable action fighter into a gatekeeper and then into a roster casualty. His value has always been his relentless, grinding pressure and an engine that forces veterans into deep, uncomfortable waters. Against Donchenko, that very identity is on trial. He must prove that his veteran savvy and durability can suffocate the explosive, unchecked confidence of youth before it's too late. Standing across from him is Daniil Donchenko, the embodiment of that dangerous, youthful confidence. At 24 years old and coming off a blistering highlight reel debut finish, Donchenko operates with the fearlessness of a fighter who hasn't yet been broken by the grind. He doesn't see Morono's 27 UFC fights. He sees a step on the ladder, an opportunity to add a respected name to his record and announce himself as a prospect with staying power. His style, built on speed and opportunistic violence, thrives against hesitation. The fascinating clash here is whether Morono's constant forward-moving pressure will disrupt Donchenko's rhythm and expose the poise gap, or whether Donchenko's athleticism and power will simply overwhelm a veteran whose best days might be behind him. The sterile environment of the Apex will amplify every strategic decision, every moment of doubt, turning this into a pure test of wills. This theme of experience versus momentum ripples through the entire UFC Vegas 113 card, most notably in its main event between Mario Bautista and Vinicius Oliveira. Both are first-time headliners, carrying the weight of a 5-round spotlight for the first time. Like Morono, Bautista represents the earned, grinding path. Like Donchenko, Oliveira carries the swagger of a surging contender. The entire event, therefore, becomes a compelling study in career inflection points. None of these fights will produce an immediate title challenger, but they will definitively answer critical questions. Can the veteran halt his slide and extend his tenure? Can the young prospect graduate from a flashy debut to a consistent threat? And can the new headliners handle the immense responsibility that comes with the top of the bill? On February 7th, in the quiet of the Apex, careers won't just advance, they will be fundamentally reshaped, proving that sometimes the most consequential battles are fought farthest from the blinding lights. In a move that blurs the lines between personal branding, high-stakes sponsorship, and outright performance art, Sean O'Malley has once again seized the combat sports spotlight, not with his fists, but with his forehead. The former UFC bantamweight champion revealed a startling new addition to his already extensive collection of ink, the phrase, "doing well," tattooed in stark block letters directly above his brow. This isn't merely a cosmetic choice. O'Malley framed it as a landmark business decision, claiming the body art is part of an 8-figure sponsorship deal with the wellness brand Doing Well. Quote, "When the sponsorship is worth 8 figures, he captioned his social media reveal, transforming his face into a literal billboard and raising the bar for athlete endorsements to a literally skin-deep level. In the O'Malley economy, every square inch of his persona is a potential revenue stream, and he has just monetized the most visible real estate on his body. The immediate and fervent debate among fans, is it real, temporary, or an elaborate AI-generated hoax, is precisely the reaction O'Malley cultivates. He stoked the mystery by first posting a photo of the tattooing process, a needle to his forehead, before unveiling the final product. This theatrical rollout ensured maximum engagement, turning a personal modification into a public event. Skeptics argue the crispness and placement are too perfect, suggesting temporary ink for a promotional campaign. Believers point to O'Malley's long-established flair for the audacious, noting that a permanent face-altering statement is entirely on brand for the fighter who has built his identity on defying convention. The ambiguity itself is part of the genius. It keeps him trending, it fuels conversation, and it embodies the sugar persona. Unpredictable, market-savvy, and always one step ahead of the narrative. Whether the ink is permanent or not, the statement is indelible. Sean O'Malley has once again demonstrated that his influence extends far beyond the confines of the octagon. He operates in the realm of cultural currency, where a tattoo can be a multi-million-dollar contract and a social media post can dominate the news cycle more effectively than a fight announcement. At 31, and with his fighting future pointing toward a massive rematch with Pereira, O'Malley is mastering a dual career, elite athlete and avant-garde entrepreneur. The Doing Well forehead tattoo, real or staged, is the ultimate symbol of this duality. It's a declaration of financial success, a piece of provocative art, a marketing coup, and a conversation starter that ensures that no matter what happens in his next fight, all eyes, and now all questions, will remain fixed squarely on him. In the whirlwind of public scrutiny that followed the announcement of a relationship between Alex Pereira and Tracy Cortez, one voice emerged with a tone of quiet, dignified closure: Brian Ortega. As Cortez's ex-fiancé, Ortega was inevitably thrust into the center of a social media storm, with fans and onlookers eagerly awaiting a reaction, perhaps one of bitterness, rivalry, or public anguish. Instead, Ortega offered a masterclass in maturity and forward-focused resolve. Addressing the attempts to provoke him directly, he stated, "I see you guys hitting me up trying to get a rise out of me. Y'all creative, I'll give you that." His response was to firmly, politely, and definitively draw a boundary. "It ain't my style to talk about others' personal life and choices, nor is it my business," he declared. redirecting the narrative away from gossip and back to purpose. "My business is my family and my career." This statement does more than just quell rumors. It strategically reframes Ortega's entire position heading into a critical 2026. With a pivotal co-main event fight against Renato Moicano at UFC 326 on the horizon, a bout that could relaunch him into title contention at featherweight, Ortega had no interest in being cast as a spurned lover in a dramatic sidebar. By affirming he is beyond happy and been happy, he neutralizes any narrative that he is emotionally compromised or seeking vengeance through his fighting. Instead, he posits his focus as singular and professional. 2026 and every year after will always be about them, family, and career. This transforms the situation from a potential distraction into a reaffirmation of his priorities, presenting the image of a seasoned veteran who has moved on, healed, and is now solely dedicated to the grinding work of reclaiming his spot at the top of the division. In doing so, Ortega also indirectly deflates any extra promotional heat his opponent, Renato Moicano, might have hoped to generate from the situation. Moicano had previously expressed humorous fear that the news would make Ortega train with a vengeful fury. Ortega's calm, above-the-fray response denies Moicano that specific emotional fuel, forcing the build-up to their fight to center on skills, strategy, and ranking implications rather than personal drama. It's a savvy, self-possessed move that demonstrates a veteran's understanding of the fight game's mental layers. Brian Ortega isn't just preparing for a fight, he's controlling his own narrative, ensuring that when he steps into the octagon in March, the story is about Brian Ortega the contender, not Brian Ortega the ex-boyfriend. In the realm of professional combat sports, that kind of clarity is itself a powerful weapon. The legacy of Justin Gaethje is not measured in undisputed championship gold, but in something perhaps more pure and resonant, a staggering, nearly $1 million trail of post-fight bonus checks, each one a receipt for a piece of his soul left in the cage. As he approaches his interim title clash with Paddy Pimblett at UFC 324, Gaethje stands on the cusp of a unique and fitting financial milestone, reaching $1 million in UFC bonus earnings, with $950,000 already banked from a career built on cinematic violence. A bonus-winning performance on January 24th would see him join his former foe, Charles Oliveira, in the seven-figure bonus club, a testament to a philosophy where entertainment and effort are currencies as valuable as victory. For Gaethje, these bonuses aren't just extra pay, they are the official monetary validation of his life's work, proof that his vow to be the most violent fighter in the sport has been honored with every battered face and shattered orbital bone. This impending milestone underscores the brutal consistency of Gaethje's appeal. In 14 UFC fights, he has failed to earn a bonus only twice, in his title fights to Khabib Nurmagomedov and Charles Oliveira, where he was simply outclassed by greatness, not outhearted. Every other time he has stepped into the octagon, win or lose, he has delivered the kind of high-risk, high-reward chaos that forces the promotion to open its wallet. From his debut double bonus against Michael Johnson to the $300,000 he earned even in the heartbreaking, legendary knockout loss to Max Holloway at UFC 300, Gaethje's financial ledger reads like a greatest hits album of modern MMA violence. It is a career built on a simple, devastating promise: you will get your money's worth. Now, as he faces Pimblett in the main event of the UFC's Paramount Plus debut, the stakes are layered. There is the interim belt, a tangible symbol of one last run at the undisputed title that has eluded him. But there is also the quieter, more personal pursuit of that magic $1 million bonus total. To achieve it, he must once again deliver the kind of fight that defines him, against an opponent in Pimblett who promises his own brand of chaotic energy. For Gaethje, a bonus at UFC 324 would be more than a paycheck. It would be a rounding out of his legacy's financial poetry, a final, seven-figure confirmation that in an era of calculated champions and strategic point fighters, Justin Gaethje chose a different, more glorious path, one paved with $50,000 and $100,000 bricks, leading all the way to the bank and straight into the history books as the sport's most reliably spectacular investment. The march toward UFC London is gaining a compelling new centerpiece, one that pits the established power of the middleweight rankings against the surging, violent ambition of a hometown prospect. Multiple sources have confirmed that the March 21st card at the O2 Arena will feature a pivotal clash between the number 12-ranked Roman Dolidze and England's own Christian Leroy Duncan. This is more than a fight. It's a clear crossroads bout with immediate implications for the 185-pound hierarchy. For Duncan, CLD, this represents the undeniable breakout opportunity his recent knockout streak has demanded. Riding a 3-fight win streak and coming off a spectacular, bonus-winning spinning back fist KO of Marco Tulio, Duncan now gets a chance to translate his highlight reel momentum into tangible ranking status. A victory over a proven, ranked commodity like Dolidze on home soil would be a career-defining moment, instantly catapulting him into the top 15 and announcing him as a new UK star with legitimate contender potential. For Roman Dolidze, the fight is a critical test of resilience and relevance. The 37-year-old Georgian is coming off the most demoralizing loss of his career, a one-sided 4th-round submission drubbing at the hands of Anthony Hernandez that snapped a promising 3-fight win streak over names like Marvin Vettori and Kevin Holland. London represents a chance to halt the rise of a hungry prospect and reassert his own place in the division's upper tier. Dolidze's path to victory lies in his formidable heavy-handed grappling, a style that could pose serious problems for Duncan if he can close the distance and negate the Englishman's dynamic range striking advantage. It's a classic style clash, Dolidze's grinding, power-based attack against Duncan's flashy technical knockout artistry. The stakes are perfectly calibrated. Duncan has never lost fighting in London, and the energy of the O2 crowd will be squarely behind him as he seeks the signature win of his career. Dolidze, meanwhile, knows that a second consecutive loss, especially to an unranked fighter, could see him tumble out of the rankings and into gatekeeper status. This booking ensures the UK fans get a high-stakes, emotionally charged battle that will either cement a new hometown hero or prove that the old guard still has one more run left in him. As the first major fight announced for the card, it sets a compelling tone, promising that UFC London will deliver not just spectacle, but consequence for the middleweight division. Momentum going in a big spot. In the ever-shifting landscape of the UFC middleweight division, where champion Khamzat Chimaev casts a long but potentially departing shadow, Joe Rogan has pinpointed the fighter he believes is destined to fill the impending void, the Cameroonian powerhouse Ateba Gaethje. On his influential podcast, Rogan didn't just praise Gaethje, he anointed him with the kind of awestruck hyperbole reserved for generational talents. "He's fucking terrifying," Rogan declared, painting a picture of a near-perfect physical specimen for the weight class. Built like a Greek god, smokes everybody, terrifying power, super speed, excellent technique, everything. Rogan's assessment, focusing on Gaethje's 6'4" frame, devastating finishing rate, 7 of his 9 wins by stoppage, and well-rounded skills, frames the 27-year-old not just as a prospect, but as the future of 185 pounds, a direct heir apparent in a division bracing for its dominant champion's move to light heavyweight. This heavyweight endorsement from Rogan places a blinding spotlight on Gaethje's upcoming fight at UFC 324 on January 24th, the historic debut event for the UFC on Paramount+. His opponent, Andrei Puliev is a dangerous finisher in his own right, making this a high-stakes showcase rather than a soft introduction. For Gaethje, this is the moment to transform Rogan's viral praise into in-cage validation. A dominant performance on such a prominent card would instantly legitimize the hype, catapulting him from intriguing prospect to must-watch contender. The narrative is compelling, a physically overwhelming athletic force emerging just as the division's king considers abdicating his throne. Gaethje represents the new blood, a striker with terrifying power who could redefine the top of the weight class with his unique blend of size and technique. However, the path from breakout star to champion is a brutal gauntlet. The middleweight division remains one of the UFC's deepest, littered with savvy veterans like Robert Whittaker, explosive contenders like Nassourdine Imavov, and other rising phenoms. Rogan's prophecy sets a towering expectation. Gaethje now must prove he can handle not only the pressure of a high-profile platform like UFC 324, but also the relentless, grinding style of the division's elite grapplers and the strategic genius of its seasoned strikers. His physical gifts are undeniable, but the true test will be his adaptability and fight IQ against progressively cunning opposition. With Rogan's voice amplifying his every move, Gaethje steps into the Paramount Plus era carrying the weight of a prediction that could either define the next chapter at middleweight or serve as a cautionary tale about the perils of premature anointment. On January 24th, he begins the work of proving whether he is merely a terrifying prospect or the terrifying future. The lingering controversy from the grappling clash between Arman Tsarukyan and Shara Magomedov has taken a bizarre and contentious turn, shifting from the mat to the scale. In the aftermath of their officially scored draw, a result many observers felt favored the dominant wrestling of Tsarukyan, Magomedov has launched a surprising counter-narrative, vehemently disputing the pre-fight perception of a massive size advantage in his favor. The middleweight star insists the documented physical disparity was a myth, claiming that at the official weigh-ins, Tsarukyan was actually heavier. "I was 84.2 kilograms on the scales. He was 84.3 kilograms, Magomedov stated, arguing the difference was a mere 100 grams, about 3.5 ounces, and not the roughly 30 pounds that separates their UFC fighting weight classes. This claim directly challenges visual evidence and basic fight physics, as Tsarukyan, a natural lightweight, would have needed to gain over 12 pounds of pure mass since his last UFC weigh-in to reach Magomedov's walking around size. Magomedov's argument appears to be a strategic attempt to reframe the narrative of the bout. By insisting the size gap was negligible, he aims to diminish Tsarukyan's performance, suggesting that the lightweight's control and powerful slams weren't a testament to superior skill overcoming a size disadvantage, but rather a contest between near equals, where he, Magomedov, held his own. It's a move to salvage pride and competitive standing after being consistently out-grappled. However, the math and physiology work against this claim. Fighters cutting to 185 pounds for a middleweight bout, like Magomedov, typically rehydrate to well over 200 pounds by fight time. For Tsarukyan to reach even 186 pounds for a grappling match, as the listed weight suggests, would require an extraordinary bulk for his frame, far beyond his functional fighting weight. Magomedov's assertion seems less a factual report and more a psychological gambit, an effort to win the post-fight storyline by rewriting the pre-fight conditions. This dispute over pounds and kilograms ultimately deepens the intrigue around a potential future MMA fight between the two. Magomedov's comments keep the rivalry simmering, adding a layer of acrimony and accusation. If they were to meet in the UFC octagon, the agreed-upon weight class would become the first major negotiation, and this very public disagreement over their true sizes would fuel the promotional buildup. For now, the myth Magomedov describes is less about an actual scale error and more about the enduring battle for perception in combat sports, where how a fight is framed can be as contested as the fight itself.
Tsarukyan's visible dominance on the mats stands in stark contrast to Magomedov's verbal recalibration of the stakes, proving that sometimes the most decisive victories are still followed by the loudest debates.
In the twilight of a career built on fearlessness, Justin Gaethje has arrived at a profound and almost poetic truth. The greatest challenges are those that scare you. As he stands on the precipice of his interim title fight with Paddy Pimblett, a bout that could grant him one final, glorious shot at the undisputed crown he has chased for a decade, his mind is already drifting to the storm that waits beyond it. The reigning, hiatus-bound champion, Ilia Topuria. In a candid moment, Gaethje did something rare for a fighter of his mythos. He admitted to feeling fear. "I love how scared I'll be," he said of a potential showdown with Topuria. This isn't the fear of a man doubting himself. It's the reverence of a master craftsman acknowledging the perfect, dangerous puzzle. It's the acknowledgement that Topuria's weapons, the concussive right hand, the dazzling 2-3 combination Gaethje calls one of the best I've seen in this sport, represent a level of precision power that demands not just bravery, but absolute technical and spiritual discipline to overcome. This admission reframes the entire landscape of Gaethje's immediate future. The fight with Pimblett at UFC 324 is no longer just a main event, it's the gateway to this terrifying, beautiful challenge. To earn the right to face that fear, he must first navigate the different but equally volatile danger that the baddie presents. Pimblett brings a swarming, grappling-heavy pressure that contrasts starkly with Topuria's sniper-like striking, forcing Gaethje to win a war on two fronts, one to secure the interim belt and another to preserve the specific skill set needed to solve the Topuria equation. Gaethje's path to undisputed glory is now a two-part examination. First, prove he can negate a younger grappler's ascent, and second, prove he can survive the stand-up masterpiece of a champion in his prime. For Gaethje, at 37, this is the ultimate distillation of his highlight philosophy. His entire legacy is a monument to walking into the fire, to transforming anxiety into violent action. The fear he speaks of is the fuel, the very thing that sharpens his focus, heightens his instincts, and makes his own devastating power that much more potent. A fight with Topuria would be the purest test imaginable, a clash of two of the sport's most efficient terminators, where one mistake, one momentary lapse in a geometric calculation of distance and timing, could end everything. Gaethje isn't running from that, he's craving it. It represents the highest possible stake, the most dangerous possible dance, and the most meaningful possible way to either finally capture the ultimate prize or leave every last ounce of his legendary heart in the cage. The fear, then, is not a weakness, it's the proof that the prize is worth everything. On January 24th, he must first conquer Pimblett to earn the right to be truly, magnificently scared.